Hello and welcome to Trondverstein. I am King Gaasen and today I'll be showing you around the different towns that we have here. So why don't you just follow me? So right now we're standing on the obvious harbor where we would usually use it for transporting goods and rowing around and maybe going on a nice boat trip just to see the Trondfjord. Now if we continue, and you follow me, we go up this nice little stairway and we are now in the Ver Square. So this is actually the main square of basically all of Trondverstein, because here we find the news board where we usually write all the specific types of news that you could expect from us to note down, like important stuff. So if we continue this way, and notice the beautiful old building of the bakery, which was one of the first buildings, one of the founding buildings of Trondverstein. So what I could say about this building is that it basically started the whole style of Trondverstein in a way. So it makes it really notable to mention. And we can continue down here. Right now we were walking through the Ver not province, but the Ver part of the capital. Now if we continue this way to the right, you're now entering the Dokstein district, which was the second, I'm guessing, yeah, second district of Verdok. Here we have a few sitting places, a few benches. And on the left you have Tuvlun Embassy Alley, named after the king of our neighboring country, Gudbrandsdalen, because we opened their first embassy here in Trondverstein down here. So if you continue this way, you have over here you have the Verdok Temporary Living Quarters Hotel. This building um, has not been used that much because we've not had many uh, visitors and people moving into our country because of our honestly strict laws of moving in. Yeah. And right now you're in the Dogstein Square, which is the only square in this district. Every district in the capital has its own square, just a single one, not more, because this is not really a big capital because of the size constraints that we had to deal with building this whole place. Now we can continue up to the third and last district of the capital, which is the Trondver district. So we can walk up here, the Trondver stairs, which takes you up to Trondver, obviously. Here you have the railway station. If you take the railway to the right, you'll end up in our next town, which we will be discussing, which is Verhilia. Anyways, if you follow me, here we have the biggest square in all of Trondverstein, the mainland, which is the Trondver Square, obviously. And you have the most famous building in all of Trondverstein, the most typical building, which consists of typical usual architecture that you could see here in Trondverstein. Now if you follow me up this stairway, you'll enter the Trondver Tower. Here you can see many of the old banners of Verstein, which was the first country. Because this is actually a kingdom which contains two kingdoms. It's a unified kingdom of Trond and Verstein. We're in the Verstein region. The Trond region will be going to in the end. If you climb up this ladder, you're going to be able to see basically all of Trondverstein. It's a really beautiful country, honestly, and probably the most beautiful country of them all here. Now that you've seen this beautiful view, we can continue down to our next town, which is Verhilia, as I said. Now, to get to Verhelia, we can go through one of the first places where actually I landed when I first came to Trondverstein and founded the whole place. Like I said, I'm the king, so I literally started it all. Here you have my house, which is the first building of Trondverstein. Maybe not the first functional building, because the first functional building is on our right. Also notice the berry farm, which was actually the first food supply that we had in Trondverstein, because we did not have anything else to eat, because getting wheat and the seeds for the wheat to make bread was really expensive. The wheat was scarce in the land. This is actually the first structure in Trondverstein, the Verdok mine. And if you have not noticed yet, the capital is named Verdok. Now, if we continue up here, you have the Museum of Trondverstein, which contains a lot of different artifacts that you can find here in Trondverstein. Now we're exiting the Verdok County, or the capital, and entering the Verhill County. So Verhill County was named after this specific hill. And if we go up here, you actually see the first building of the Verhill County. So first of all, welcome to Verhelia, which is our next town that we will cover. This right here is the Verhelia Bone Mill Factory. And like I said, the first building. Here, we convert seeds to bone meal, which we use to make grow plants all over the land. So a lot of the plants that you see here in Trondverstein comes from this building, which is nice enough. Now, if we walk down here, we have the main square of Verhelia. Really beautiful. And it's also the most famous square and street in all of Trondverstein, because it houses the most typical building designs that you would find in Trondverstein. So if you think of Trondverstein, or more specifically the Verstein region, this is probably what you would imagine. Now, if we continue down here and go to our right towards Meal Factory Path, which is another really famous street. This is something we called Lushy Alley. It got the nickname Lushy Alley because of the leaves hanging between the buildings. With these really miniature buildings that are really cozy, I have to say. They're really nice. Here we have one of my favorite squares, and now we're on the Dogger Bridge. This bridge takes us to our next town, which we will cover, which is Dagobord. And right in front of you right now, if you look up, you see the Tower of Dagobord Valley, which was the first building ever constructed in Dagobord. Now, if we walk up here, and you can also see all the different arches that were down there. Hopefully you notice them. We get a little viewing room, and on the top, we have the top of the tower, which houses the nice view of all of Trondverstein, just like the other tower. This is just the difference is this one's slightly higher up than the other towers. It's the highest you can get in the Verstein region. Now let's go down to Dagobord, which is known as the tourist town of Trondverstein, because when tourists come to Trondverstein for the first time, they used to end up in Dagobord specifically, but they end up actually in the Trondver region. But in the Verstein region, Dagobord is the first town you'll get to once you take the railway from Gudbrandsdalen to here. So this is the tourist town. It has the Grand Hotel of Dagobord, and right now we are in the Dagobord Square. Here we have a really famous street. Just take a second to admire the beautiful buildings that were built along this magnificent canal. Now that you've looked a little at it, if you look down here, you can actually see the island where the Treaty of Dagobord was signed, where where the two of our kingdoms united because of this treaty that was signed by me and King Dog. Now we can head down here actually, and we will go to our right down the Dagobord tunnel, which takes us to the dock, which I would like to show. On the left, you can see the railway station of Dagobord, and if we continue on this way on the right, you can actually see the potato farm, which gives us all the food of Trondverstein. It supplies us with every source of nutrients that we require. And here you have the famous Dagobord smelting and potato baking factory, which we use to bake the potatoes and get our iconic baked potatoes. Now it's really hot in here, and a lot of smoke. The smoke is ventilated out these openings in the roof. And now we can head out, and I'd like to take you to the fishing spot here in Dagobord. This was the first fishing spot in all of Trondverstein. It's a little cozy dock where you can fish, and it's a really famous fishing spot where we catch a lot of expensive fish, which we sell for money. Now, a little fun fact, if we go up here and you get a better view, you see all of these potatoes? Originally, we were supposed to build a town here. In reality, we were actually supposed to construct the town along the Ver Sound, as it's called, the waters here outside of Burdock. So that's where we actually were supposed to build the first town. Anyways, we're gonna head on to our last town in the Verstein region, and then I'm thinking we can head over to the Trondver region. So we're heading on to Lake Zoltan County. Now, this county has received a lot of critique for being the ugliest county because of the buildings, but it also made it iconic in a way, because these three buildings were originally built by actual players who used to live here. A little fun fact, this one actually said they would return in a week. Yeah, it's been a few months. Anyways, over here on the right, you can see that one of the two actual finished buildings here, which was built by someone named Lacey. They would sell fish in their shop. If we continue down here, you get the house of Soltes. Now we turn it into a flower house, which you can go in and see flowers in its garden. Anyway, we're heading on to... Where'd you go? Over here. We're heading on to New Lake Sultanville, which is a newly constructed version of Old Lake Sultanville. Here you have basically the same style of the original three buildings, just built in a larger scale. And a little funny thing is that actually no, that's a fun fact. The fun fact is there used to be a large hotel here, built by Benjamin, which was a former player who used to live in Trondverstein. He no longer lives here anymore. In fact, he's gone. We don't know what happened to him. Last time he was sighted was in the hospital, Verity's mental hospital, and you can see it standing ominously back there. We can actually head on to it. Just look up in the view. And remember how I said this was the last town in the Verstein region? I actually forgot to mention that there's another town. And a reason why I forgot that the town existed was because it's so hidden that you can call it a hidden gem. And I'll tell you the name of that town later on. Then we'll move on to Trondver. I can tell you a little about this part in the meanwhile. This is the Versound Fortress. Here we have the first building built by someone named Antur. And Miha. They both live there. Ignore the thing on the right. If we continue here, you see the ominous Rarities Military and Mental Hospital. They say that the ghost of Benjamin still wanders around in this area. We'll get a little spooky now that's night. Anyways, I'll take you to the last town, which is, as I said, a hidden gem in Trondverstein. Now we can actually start running, okay? Because this is gonna take a while on foot. I'll take you through the actual main route that you would get there originally. Some say we might be able to take a boat, or that we should instead be rowing towards the town, but it's unnecessary because I would actually wanted to see the nature route to the town through the forest of Shirkland County. Now, meanwhile, while we're walking there, I can tell you a little about this county. So on the right, you see the castle here in Shirkland, built by Rarity, with its abstract buildings or style. Here I am. Now follow me. Here, it is planned to be a large town. I think it was going to be called something with Shirk. It was going to be called. Anyways, we're heading on to the industrial town of Stockvik. We can run. Now the entrance of this town is on the right. So we're gonna go down here, down this hill. And I think you see now why I said this town was really well hidden. And yes, it is basically called the hidden gem of Trondverstein. Or at least the first time we should. Okay, welcome to Stockvik, also known as the Sunset Town. It is called the Sunset Town. It got its nickname because when sunset comes in Trondverstein, you usually see it really well from Stockvik, a little fishing village in the northwestern part of Trondverstein. Now, we can start by walking around here in Merchant's Bath. You see all these beautiful flower pots placed around, a few boats, and over there you can see the HMS Shirkguard, which was the first Navy military ship of Trondverstein. Let me just take a little stroll down Channel Street. We're gonna go into the main part of Stockvik. Welcome to Stockvik Main Street. Here we see the beautiful town of Stockvik. Some call it a poor town because of its small buildings, but I think that just makes it even cozier to be. It's a more cozier place to be at. It's mostly quiet, I would say, because it's far away from all the other more famous known towns. But that does not mean you should miss this town, because it's really nice noticing. But that doesn't mean it's fully quiet here, because a lot of the sounds comes from the industrial part, and I would like to show that. A little tour of this place. Now, I don't know the industrial part myself that well, so we'll just head on through here, this little alleyway that takes you to the grainy field path of Stockvik, which is a place I would like to show you. Here we have even more small huts, and here we have Driftwood Street. Really quiet street, if I say so. Now, since I don't have a boat, we will have to walk all the way to... Oh wait, never mind, look how lucky we are. There are conveniently placed boats right there. Let's ride them. I'll now take you to Trond. And I just realized we'll have to take it over the ice first. Don't worry, we'll be there fast. Don't worry, I can tell you a little bit about this little place in meanwhile. So right now we're in the Trondfjord, which is where I first arrived. And you see these two towers right here? Here there used to be a small little wooden bridge, which was removed because it was so tiny that no ships could pass by. It might end up in the museum someday. And in front of us, we see the wall that protects Trondver and Verstein regions. We're still in Tronsfjord. And on the right, we can see the path that would take you to Gudbrandsdalen and all the other nations. To make this a lot more nicer, a little more nicer trip, I'd like to take you through. We can walk through Dagboard to get to the other region, because Dagboard is where the main entrance to Trond. That's how you get to Trond. You would walk through Dagboard and then you'll cross the border. Alright, you see that little railway? Crossing that, and then you're in the Trond region. Now welcome to the Trond region, which is owned by King Dagdag. So I'll take you to the Trond town, which is the only town actually in Trond. The Trond region is really famous for its nature. Meanwhile, the Verstein region is more famous for having so many towns. The Trond region is different. It's more famous for its natural, beautiful landscape. Take a little peek at it. Just admire the landscape for a little second. Anyways, we can now continue. Following me, I'll take you to Trond town. Now this is where Dagdag buildings lie. Nestled up in the mountains of Trondverstein, you'll find Trond town, with its medieval architecture and buildings. Really beautiful. On the right you can see the biggest church in Trondverstein. And if we continue down here, you can see some arches. And down this path, we'll end up by another bridge that will take us to the other part of Trond town. Now I don't know the names of these places because I didn't construct them, but I do know my way around here, mostly. This is the quiet path that we're on. It will take us to a famous street here in Trond town. Here we have some famous small buildings with its white clay filler blocks. And we're soon at the last checkpoint before we end this tour. Here we have another famous street. And right here, you can actually see a little border that takes you to Sweden. Now that country we might take over someday, but not now. Anyways, if we head through this little alley, you can see another church that was built by Dagdag. And I know I said the other one was the biggest. Don't mind that. This church is not finished. That's why. Here we have another part of the Trond town. A little fun fact was, me and Dagdag originally planned to build the capital of Trondverstein here, but since he has been gone for a long time, and we've not been in good contact, he basically started building here without saying anything, so you have a little town here. Now, I'm thinking we can end our tour right here, with Dagboard in the background.